Dead Peasant Radio.
We must have faith in each other.
Of informing and alerting.
Faith in our ability to govern ourselves.
Dead Peasant Radio.
It's now the most important task we face. Important task we face.
You are listening to Dead Peasant Radio.
Sometimes even anger. Public opinion.
What can we do? What can we do? Face the truth. The truth. The truth. The truth.
Come on in, man. Yo, I got hamburgers. Yo, we gon' bring the bounce back. That's some kid style.
We gon' get this rumble started. You the people, we the artists. It's official, bump regardless. That's okay, we bump the hardest. Sounds delicious, keep it moving. Me and you, let's start a moving. Pretend we know what we're doing what we probably shouldn't.
Ass backwards from average to savage. So stay with what matters, cause life is the chutes and the ladders. It be the stakes in the grass. Whatever it takes to get the stakes to mass. Hold the line with a method older than time. Interpret the signs, I come flirting with a virgin that mimes. You better give me what's mine. A home on a reliable ride, maybe a pound on the slide. Cause we just keeping it wet. So now I'll show you something you ain't seen in me yet. I bleed when I sweat cause I fiend for the bet. Made moves while you slap and shake a scene when I step. Oh damn it, there's nothing in my state but granite. And blatant disregard for the way the masters planned it. After planet, get off and save yourself. Cause I don't need good health, lots of wealth to love myself.
We gon' get this rumble started. You the people, we the artists. It's official, bump regardless. That's okay, we bump the hardest. Sounds delicious, keep it moving. Me and you, let's start a movement. Pretend we know what we're doing what we probably shouldn't.
Spark bang, ignite the flame. Big worm in your face, in the back's the gang. She know I got game, so she looking to hang. My boys smoking in the back, just doing their thing. There's need to calm down before we rumble the stage. I know you seen the movie, so you'll remember my name. And I can burn that haze, be up for 3 days. We drunk as a motherfucker, still rip the stage. Act like you don't know, LFD's the fam, never going solo. No rockin' polo, we at our own level. Who wanna party with a rebel? That's okay, come through, rip the roof off the venue. But white boys got skills to flash. Might as well take a picture, shit's happening fast. And this ain't an opera, but I'll bust that glass. And if we get to talking, she'll want it to last.
We gon' get this rumble started. You the people, we the artists. It's official, bump regardless. That's okay, we bump the hardest. Sounds delicious, keep it moving. Me and you, let's start a movement. Pretend we know what we're doing what we probably should.
It's been a long time, save your nickels for a spit shine. I like felines, but I don't need to buy mine. The 9 to 5, searching for a dime. Rather have a peace of mind, stay on side. The business, flooded with some bullshit, brother. Life is too short, party hard until you stutter. Here to battle anybody, battling the people. Wave a flag that's black with a fist for an eagle. Want the warfare? Swear to God, it's the norm here. They rob me, rob you, call it tax fare. I drink beer, get paid with cash. Got a shorty on the side that's far from trash. Yeah. Long days, learn time is money. Gotta work real hard for them playboy bunnies. Earn money, get paid, then die. Fuck that, where's the stage? I'll keep it alive.
We gon' get this rumble started. You the people, we the artists. It's official, bump regardless. That's okay, we bump the hardest. Sounds delicious, keep it moving. Me and you, let's start a movement. Pretend we know what we're doing what we probably shouldn't.
It's not my feet, I walking sideways. World knows it'd be a better place if they start doing it our way. And now I chill with the crops. I know you know to give thanks for everything that you got. But suddenly it occurred to me that if I paid half now, I get half for free. And now it's me, but the clock will stop. And now I push the green with no plan to stop. That's how I do, like a throw on the run. But it's so far from the truth, how it's always been done. I put that crown on life, where we at ain't fun. And I don't care where you at, God knows where you're from. And why not? It's a mess they don't got. That's why they lost their shirt, cause they like to talk. And hip hop, what we do all day. And it's okay, cause it's just okay.
We gon' get this rumble started. You the people, we the artists. It's official, bump regardless. That's okay, we bump the hardest. Sounds delicious, keep it moving. Me and you, let's start a movement. Pretend we know what we're doing what we probably shouldn't.
Dead Peasant Radio, number 10, 2015.
Live from Lambertville, New Jersey.
In the last episode, we discussed Rosicrucianism and what you might learn when you join one of these secret societies. In this episode, we're going to touch upon a book I'm reading called The Residence Key.
and it's got some pretty
The resonance key?
exploring the links between vibration, consciousness, and the 0-point grid.
Okay.
It's by Mary D. Jones and Larry Flaxman.
Nice.
And there's just a lot of paragraphs in this book that you could probably read and have an hour conversation on it.
Right.
So I'm going to read one. In a paper, A Note on Science and NDE, a scientific model, why memory, aka consciousness, cannot reside solely in the brain. Berkovich, we'll go with Berkovich.
Yeah.
Berkovich talks about similarities with our DNA. DNA, he suggests, might be more of an information marker, while the actual information that dictates how our body will look and function is stored elsewhere. He likens it to a card catalog system in a library. The brain acts in this way, as part of the informational infrastructure of the physical reality/world. Or think of logging on to the net. Could the brain be just one of many computers in a vast and linked network of shared information? In other words, he states, the human brain is not a standalone computer, but rather a terminal at the internet of the physical universe.
What? So, this guy's hypothesis is that the human brain is almost like a cell phone that connects to one part of the cloud?
Yeah, or, so he did a project on rats, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's, this other guy, Prabram's, what weird names these are. Prabram's work with rats convinced him that memory was stored not in a specific part of the brain, but all over it. He surgically removed the portions of the brain thought to store memory, then tested the rats in a maze. He discovered that certain cognitive abilities of the rats were maintained, and they were able to remember their way around, no matter what part of the brain he took out. So he would take out a different part on each rat where they thought memory would be stored, but they could all move around. Alright? Surprisingly enough, this happened no matter what part of the brain was removed. Even human patients who had certain parts of their brains removed could still retain specific memory functioning. Amazingly, removing the temporal lobe led to no loss of memory.
So the memory storage, could shift around the brain. It's shared by the whole brain. It could shift around the brain all the time. And this guy's also hypothesizing that there's some sort of external, almost like a cloud, he's describing it, where the actual information is
it says
outside of the human body.
Pribram, whatever this guy's name is, Pribram, was sure that memory was not localized but evenly distributed throughout the entire brain. Or was it? Intriguingly, the holographic model of the brain suggests that, similar to virtual reality, the mind/body ultimately cannot distinguish between the neural holograms the brain uses to experience reality and the ones it conjures up while imagining reality. It seems that the only one doing the imagining limits the power of the imagination. During the dreaming stage, even dreams can be perceived as a type of reality, with the actual body reacting to sensations and images even as it lies still in bed.
So this is the case this guy is making throughout this whole book.
Yeah, that there's kind of there's definitely a huge hole in terms of what we understand about our conscious, right? It's not stored in a specific part of the brain.
Yeah.
It's stored, it's stored evenly over the entire brain, throughout the brain, which is that like a defense system that Mother Nature designed. So like steps that you do repetitively when you're building up that neural connections, nature must look at it as like the reason they do this a lot is because they need to know how to do it.
To survive.
So parts of the program to be able to do that are stored throughout the entire hard drive of the brain. instead of in one particular section? Or is it stored externally, like in your aura as the frequency, and your brain is the computer that can take in the information and process
So where's that frequency generated,
I don't know.
if that's the case?
Where's it? Well, I mean, your entire meat suit is an electrical system.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's generating a magnetic field.
Right, and electrical pulses. So, all right, I got to read this book now, obviously.
Yeah. So in a holographic universe, think of it like this. You can store images at different angles, and you can store information at different angles in a hologram.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like a sheet of paper. You can only write one set of information
Different dimensions,
on the sheet,
right?
You know, but with a holograph, you could technically in one slice store a universe, and another slice store a universe, and so on and so on and so on and so on.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe our auras are some form of holographic, undetectable to the human meat suit form of storage for what we learn, and we carry it with us.
Mm-hmm.
It's infinite, right?
Yeah.
And then when you need it, your brain can pull it from your own ether, like you're your own network.
So what does that mean for you after your body dies?
They don't know the answer to that.
I mean, this is a fascinating kind of subject.
I mean,
this is
if you go by modern physics, right,
Mhm.
they say no information can't be created nor destroyed. And if that turns out to be true, then
energy.
the energy you are now goes somewhere, whether or not it carries information. I think it does. What it does is it carries information through genes, right? I think that you're not supposed to worry about death. You're supposed to worry about educating genes, whether they're your own that you pass on to your children, whether they're people that are dumber than you that you need to get their genes up to modern
see.
evolution.
Oh,
So
wow.
when they procreate, the genes are evolving.
That almost paints DNA as the species that is the driving force of evolution, and human beings are sort of as just like a vehicle for DNA.
Yep. Yeah, basically.
I don't know. There's something interesting about this idea of consciousness existing elsewhere and the body just being a conduit for expressing it. And it makes me think of what some people refer to, or mystics would refer to as the Akashic record. Have you heard of that?
No.
Supposedly, all information, and the guy that built the Coral Castle was a big believer in this sort of a thing, and Edgar Cayce was a big believer in this sort of thing. The idea of this Akashic record is that all information that ever existed and ever will exist, and sort of an omniscient database exists, and we can access it. It's just that we've forgotten how to through the millenniums.
Yeah.
And it's similar to what this scientist that wrote this book is sort of talking about, this idea that there's I keep coming back to the idea of a cloud of information, of souls, of consciousness, of perhaps, unified consciousness, that we all just sort of resonate a single frequency out of it.
Yeah.
We're all just a single sort of projection of it.
Well, to touch on what you were saying about like how you paint your universe, there's some scientists have this point of view on that. It's what they call plasticity. The plasticity of our neurological system allows us to adapt new ideas, adapt to new experiences, create and retain memories, and possibly even see things we didn't see before, such as the pink tuxedo we have had custom made, thinking it's the only one on Earth, only to find pink tuxedos are everywhere. We just never made the neural connections before. Now that we have, our plastic brain has permitted us the joys of seeing an abundance of pink tuxedos. Not with an exclamation period. But I think what the idea they're trying to get to there is that, like, you buy a new car and you never really noticed it before, and then the day you start driving around with it, you see them everywhere, right?
Yeah.
And they were always there, but you didn't make the neural connection in your brain to really
You weren't paying attention.
to register or process what that car was, because it was unimportant to your survival.
Right.
Right? So now that you own that car and it's important to your survival, you see it everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And is that just a coincidence, or is that something where, like, it's an error in the program, right? Where, because it happens all the time. It happens with everything, right? You buy yourself a new tool and you're like, oh, I've never seen these before. And then you, like, the next job site, you show up, someone's using one.
Yeah.
It happens all the time. Is that a glitch in the matrix where, like, when you show interest in something, the way you put energy into it affects, like, objects that are in your life? And so you're like, I love pink tuxedos, and then the next day you go to work and you see a pink tuxedo, which you never saw a pink tuxedo before.
Mm-hmm.
Is that like a glitch in the matrix where it's like pink tuxedos and it kind of like throws them into the formula?
Mm-hmm.
You know?
It does get weird sometimes.
And can you use this
It's a lot of
knowledge,
synchronicities.
if this is secret knowledge,
Mm-hmm.
can you apply it to make things manifest in your life that are beneficial? That gets into, like, magic, like,
Yeah.
Aleister Crowley type stuff, right?
Yeah. Well, I think it's a possibility. I mean, I've sort of seen evidence to this sort of thing in my own life, but only in the sense that you recognize that the most powerful thing in your world is the human brain,
Yeah.
and you've really only got access to your own.
Yeah.
So when you start to realize those kinds of things, you can then meditate on the things that you want to do, and that really starts to develop them in your head, and you can see a framework for them, and you can visualize these things happening. So then it's, I won't say less of an effort, but it's more developed and purposeful when you then go ahead and make the actions in your life with your meat suit for those things to happen.
Yeah.
Right? And then when you start to do that, you're going to succeed more at things in life. You're going to get more tasks accomplished. You're going to get more of the things that you want out of your career and out of your garden and things like that. So in a sense, I agree with this. I do think that if you put intention towards something, you can make that a reality in your universe.
Yep. And it's like manifestations only happen one step at a time, right? Like, things never happen overnight at all. So when you apply your brain, it's just one step at a time. Just to do the next step. And then when that one's done, worry about the next step. And it's a quick way to manifest things. There's definitely not a world where you can, like, I mean, I don't know, unless some of these, like, grand masters really got some true...
Some of these, like, Rosicrucians of the Council of Three.
You can't make things manifest overnight. Like big things. Like in the book The Secret, right? They're like, oh, if you start drawing pictures of what you want and this and that and that, like, it will come into your life.
Yeah.
And I'm saying that it's probably more likely coming into your life because when you do stuff like that, even if you don't you're focused, but you're also doing one little step at a time to get to that goal.
Right.
Right? And it's not like this, like, oh yeah, if you just draw the picture you want every day, it's going to manifest.
No, I'm certain that there's a bunch of disappointed airheads, probably mostly in California, that read The Secret and thought that all they had to do was, make a storyboard. No, what do they call it? A vision board of the yacht they want to get, despite the fact that they work at Ralph's, and they would get it. And then they got depressed because it didn't happen and probably turned to cool cigarettes instead. Yeah. But what can you do for those people?
They're teaching exactly what the cults are teaching, right? They're teaching how to win friends and influence people. They're teaching,
how to outwit the devil.
How to outwit the devil. They're teaching mind control, positivity, training. They're teaching
do
all
as
of
thou
that.
wilt.
Yeah, that's what they're training into you, and then you're gonna be successful when you think like that. I mean, it's just proven,
Yeah.
and that's the big thing. So you do literally manifest things,
Mhm.
but I think we're getting off subject a little
Sorry.
bit. What we were referring to is where is this stored,
Yeah.
right? Like,
It's a
where
good
is all
question.
this
Like, where is
information?
imagination? Where does imagination come from?
Right?
You know what I mean? Like, to my mind, you pull beats out of the air.
Yeah.
You know? Where does that come from? It's not a location in the brain, apparently, if what this scientist is purporting to be the case.
I think what it is it's because for me, like I said, I'm a big proponent of the one step at a time, which according to this book also builds the neural pathways in your brain to remember this stuff.
So it's almost like a muscle memory, except your brain is the muscle.
Yeah, and not only that, but our grandfather was a musician, you know.
That's right.
I grew up like
So genetic memory.
listening to my father would play real stuff on records, you know, like Santana and Dylan and stuff. I didn't grow up around cookie cutter music.
So maybe all of your memory is held in your DNA and not in your brain at all.
It could be held or stored in your DNA holographically, you know,
Uh-huh.
in layers, because your brain won't lose it. Like your brain, it's stored evenly throughout your entire system.
So if it disappears from one area, it is already somewhere else and reappears.
Yeah, and you're gonna lose motor functions and stuff from removing parts of your brain. Again, the study was on rats. You can't really compare rats to humans too much.
Well, some humans you can.
Some humans you definitely can.
Chris Christie.
But in this book, I can't find it to quote it, but they talk about this idea where like you have like a zombie in you,
Okay.
and the zombie is the person that's like, I like that car, or oh, I would really go for a cheeseburger tonight, right?
Oh, I talked to that zombie a lot today.
And then there's you that's like, I don't need to be eating a cheeseburger tonight, you know, or I don't need to be wanting that.
Yeah.
But this zombie is there. We don't really seem to have control of this zombie.
Yeah.
Like love, like feelings, you know, like emotions. We don't really have control over these things. These are things that we respond to
Right.
consciously.
Right.
But they're not necessarily sure if our conscious is putting it there.
Oh, I see.
You get it?
Mm-hmm.
So if that's not a part of us and it's not stored in us, where is that from? Where is that voice from?
This is the idea that we touched on. I think in the episodes about Gnosticism and in the episode about Rosicrucianism, about this idea that from what I can tell, dates back to the mystery schools of Egypt. So we're talking 8,000 or 9,000 years ago, really.
Yeah.
And this idea of the observer, like the self and the observer, or the man and the Atman.
Yeah.
And mastering the balance between those two, which is like an alchemical kind of a process.
Yeah.
I maybe took us on a tangent there a little bit.
No, it makes sense because in this book they're saying like there's certain parts of your thought process you control and are you, and then there's certain parts that pop up like bam.
Right.
And
Right. So yeah, the question is, where does that observer come from?
yeah, is it in you?
Mm-hmm.
Is it your consciousness creating it? Almost like everybody's bipolar in a way.
Yeah. Well, it's like
Is it
this
from
idea of
the
the
grid
muse, right?
or the Matrix?
What do you think of that? Like that idea as a musician, the idea of the muse.
I don't
this
know.
this sort of spirit that takes over an artist, and the artist just sort of becomes like a conduit to express this spirit through themselves. Like I know when I'm working in this in my studio, things turn out the best when I feel most just like a passenger in the process and just another tool that's like
Yeah.
collecting these weird objects that somehow I know go together, although I've given it no thought.
Yeah.
You know, and I imagine it's the same way for you when you're putting beats together.
Yeah, well, it's like a don't push the river thing.
Uh-huh.
That's the way that live my life a lot. I say that to myself all the time.
So do you feel like your creations already exist somewhere outside of you and you just help them come into being?
No, well, with music, I definitely resonate to certain sounds, tones, chords, and stuff like that. And when I stay within my comfortability range of music notes and chords and scales and stuff that just sound good to me, music's easy to make. I never really push the river with it, so if I'm working on something and I'm struggling to make it what I want, or it just doesn't really see, I walk away.
Yeah.
You
have to.
A lot of artists don't, though. A lot of artists,
They'll scrape that
they
canvas
think
down
the
100
challenge
times.
is what is going to make them feel happy about their artwork. That they're going to be
struggle.
like, I spent 40 hours on it to get it to what I like.
That means it was passionate somehow.
But I kind of go off of the keep it simple. The human mind, especially like
Let it happen.
Yeah, and people don't like things too complicated. People don't like artwork that's too complicated. They don't like music that's too noisy and cluttered. Like, in a way, people kind of like simplicity.
They want things to be accessible.
I mean, look at it in our
There can be
clothes.
complicated ideas that come in accessible packages, though, I think.
Well, I think that's one of the big points of our existence is to spread information from each other and to create our genes for future generations to be better than they were when we received them, right? Our goal is to always become better. I lost my train of thought there.
Well, based on the subject of the book, I think what's important that you touched on is this idea that we're here to share information with each other.
Yeah.
So, like, you almost find yourself finding God in this conversation, because if there is this collection of information, this cloud or database of consciousness that we're all just sort of channeling through DNA to share information, then that sounds like God wanting to spread himself all over the universe.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And to do it simply, right? Because it's like, look at evolution. As we get smarter, as our genes get better, things around us tend to get easier, right? Go back 200 years. Look at how they dressed compared to now. Now I'm wearing swimming trunks and a sleeveless t-shirt. 200 years ago, I would have had like 4 pieces of wool on, a hat.
There was a purpose for that, though.
Well,
there was a purpose for all that clothing.
There was. And just to cook a meal, right? Mm-hmm. Or to build something.
Things are getting easier, you're saying.
Yeah, like as we get smarter, we make technology to make our lives easier.
Yeah.
Right? And that's what the brain wants to clearly remember. Mm-hmm. And to the brain, that is super important because it makes sure it won't store it in one part of the brain.
It seeks comfort.
It's smart enough to
it can store
give
fat.
itself insurance. Mm-hmm. Right? It's smart enough to know it to give itself insurance because it needs its genes.
Yeah.
See, the
brain knows that it's a weak bitch and it needs to store fat and water to keep it as healthy as possible.
To keep the genes healthy.
That's true.
I honestly think that
it only
cares about the information carrier, and that's genes and DNA.
It really makes it. I mean, there's a direct analogy here between the human brain and consciousness and cell phones and information. Like it's almost like we're building a mini model of ourselves with these devices that we're all obsessed with.
Are you up to date with your knowledge on the left and right brain and how they're different?
I only know, and I don't even know if this idea is still, part of the primary literature or if it's just antiquated thought, but it used to be that the left side of the brain controlled the more logical, analytical processes, and it also controlled the right hand, and then it's reversed, and the right side of the brain controls the left hand and is in part of the more creative, artistic, things like empathy and you know, love and music and art are all on that side. And
So you're on it.
yeah.
And there's a study they've been doing. So they know that the left side of the brain, while the way you described it made it seem like the smart side, it's also the side that is like, you need to pay your bills. And, oh, you need to go get your prostate checked out. And
It worries.
you're getting to the age where you need to start worrying about this.
It's where anxiety is?
It's where anxiety is. And they've noticed that when people are in a state where they say they've seen UFOs or they're experiencing paranormal activity or they're super like sketched out, like when you eat too many pot cookies type of vibe, that the left side of the brain is like, wah, it's going crazy, okay?
Yeah.
So they've been doing these EMT studies where they'll send electromagnetic pulses into the left side of the brain, right? And they'll like lower the lights in a room to make it a little spooky. And the people whose left side of the brains they charge all come back saying that they felt like there was a presence in the room. And that,
Ooh.
right? So now it makes you wonder are people that are experiencing these Bigfoots, and another thing that is as a trend is in times of distress when the country isn't doing good, the reports of paranormal activity, UFO sightings, Bigfoot sightings go through the roof, right? So
right.
they tend to say there's a connection between the left side of the brain being active, right? In these times of recession, people are worried. Their brains are going, you got to pay your bills, food stamps, kids
You're
in
unsure
school,
of the future.
right? And that's when a lot of people are making claims of feeling like there's a guardian angel in the room with them, seeing a shadow or a ghost, or experiencing a UFO abduction or lights in the sky.
Or the duende or the Llorona or however it manifests.
And as part of the American culture, you know that since September 11th, America has been a kind of on-edge culture. And the news has become what was always a negative, frequency creating session. It is now super fear beacon. And since those days, think of how many of these paranormal shows, UFO shows, Bigfoot shows, Ancient Alien shows.
Ancient Aliens popped up just after 9/11,
Secret
right?
Society stuff. It's all gone crazy, and it's because of we have a very active left side of our brain that is also being charged like they do in the lab, right? But it's done through the TV. So they've figured out that they don't need an EMT or whatever they're called, pulse thing, in everyone's house to activate the left side of the brain. All they need is the TV box. All they need is to use certain sound frequencies and chords to put people in a certain position or feeling of stress, right? So they can control your right and left side brain hemisphere. Easy. Anyone could do this. Anyone listening could make a YouTube video that could spook somebody. Well, all you're really doing is
Right.
you're charging the fear side of someone's brain, which is the rational side, the side that says, "Don't open the door. There's a serial killer there."
There's a certain science to this.
There's
which
a
is
science
why
to it.
there's this a thing called binaural beats, which I'm sure you know more about than I do.
Yep.
But there is a definite science to, I guess, sonic pulses and electromagnetic pulses manipulating the human brain. I mean,
Yeah.
a very base example would be electroshock therapy, and a contemporary example is what we refer to as binaural beats. But this idea that the television resonates at a certain frequency to manipulate your brain in a certain manner, there's a lot of conspiracy theories, to not to use it in a pejorative term, but about
alternative
that.
science.
Right, and I mean, we do know that the Nazi scientists were experimenting with that kind of technology, and we use electromagnetic pulse weapons as part of our contemporary military campaigns.
Well, I mean, so I'm back into this book. The book's called The Resonance Key, by the way.
Resonance key.
Resonance key.
You're saying the residence.
Oh, no, that's not what I'm saying, but that's what it sounds like I'm saying because of my accent.
Oh, right, because
Yeah.
you're Lithuanian.
But anyways, so in this book, they kind of give you an idea of what hertz do what to the brain.
Oh,
So
yeah,
what-
that was my question. Like, what? Go ahead.
So like 0 to 3 hertz, lowest frequencies with highest amplitude and slowest waves. Delta is the realm of deep sleep, non-REM sleep, trance states, and the unconscious. So delta waves are 0 to 3 hertz.
Are we talking about sound waves, electrical magnetic waves? What?
Well, I mean, they're all similar with how they move.
Okay.
So I don't know if there's a connection between like electromagnetic waves, sound waves. If
But a hertz, what is a hertz a measurement of?
a hertz is, I believe, how many times the sound wave compresses and decompresses in like a second or 2 seconds.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
So theta waves are 4 to 8 hertz. Slow activity associated with creativity, intuition, and daydreaming. The state between wakefulness and sleep and the realm of the subconscious. Children up to the age 13 practically live in theta, which they explain why they appear to be more psychic or imaginative. Next waves are alpha, 8 to 12 hertz. Relaxed but alert. The common brain state, not only processing information associated with good moods and mind-body integration, a good brain state for healing and balance of the mind. Next waves are beta, above 12 hertz, the frequency associated with fast and normal life activity, problem solving, focused thought, decision making, and analyzing information. High beta in the 18 hertz range or above can lead to agitation and anxiety or over alertness and hypervigilance, as Marie experienced often after big earthquakes while living in LA. Whoever that must have been from something earlier in the book. High alpha and low beta, approximately 13 hertz, the most common state of the brain during normal activities, with the exception of sleep. And then there's gamma, above 36 hertz. This is when the brain needs to process information simultaneously above various parts of the brain. High-level information processing and thinking, integrating thoughts and ideas, and excellent memory recall. Utilizes every part of the brain, especially at rates over 40 hertz. So, basically, what I know about binaural beats is, and I might have this wrong, and I'll research it for the next podcast, but in your left ear, you would do a frequency of 520 hertz, and in the right ear, you do a frequency of 530 hertz, right? Now, the difference is 10 hertz. So the way that's how you would basically get into this state. Like, so 10 hertz is alpha, 8 to 12 hertz. Relaxed but alert, the common brain state, not overly processing information, associated with good moods and mind/body integration. A good brain state for healing and balance of the mind, right? So if you wanted to try to use these sound waves to get into that state, between 8 to 12 hertz. Like I said, you would put 520 hertz in your left ear, 530 hertz in your right ear, and because of phasing and how the sound waves cross each other, it leaves this 10 hertz vibration. And that's kind of like what binaural beats are. So that's how they're using sound to help vibrate your brain within these range of frequencies that all have different effects on the human body.
What are some of the effects? Do you know? I mean, that
Well,
they're able
it's
to
pretty
use
easy to
binaural-
explain. I mean, like, when you hear, like, Surfin' USA by the Beach Boys, right? It's got that Surfin' USA,
Oh, I see what you're
right?
saying. Yeah.
In a way, it's probably vibrating within the frequencies that this book is saying are a happy state. Like the devil's note, it's three notes, right? And it makes that like It's like horror movies using a lot. You know, it's like,
okay.
That's a super
And it
high.
definitely manipulates your consciousness, right?
Well, it's a super high note. It's agitating, like that book said. The higher the hertz, the more an agitative state humans come at.
So, do we know, maybe it's something we have to look into, like what hertz the TV is pumping into your brainstem?
Every show would be different, and it would break down from music they're playing.
But as far as light is concerned, like that
Light,
flickers at a certain rate.
Right, and I
Then
get
I
what you're
imagine-
saying. If a light wave is traveling through space and disturbing air molecules the same way that a 20 hertz sound wave does, does it have similar effects to the human body?
Right, exactly.
See, I don't have the answer for that. I only know that they're using sound to experiment with this stuff. I don't know. Well, I know that light affects plants, right? Like if you put red light on a plant, they say it will grow tall and skinny, and if you use a lot of blue light, it will grow short and bushy.
Oh, I did not know that.
Okay, so
I dated a girl in high school named Short and Bushy.
well, what if that's what happens when you hallucinate, right? And your pupils take in light that your brain normally wouldn't see. Now, your brain doesn't want to see that light for a reason, and is that because of the psychoactive effects that light frequency has on your brain? So what I'm getting at is, are you hallucinating from acid, or are you hallucinating because the acid allowed your brain to see light waves that have weird effects on the brain?
That your brain used to block out?
That your brain used to block out so it didn't think it was an orange.
Yeah, well, I mean, people do, when they're on acid, they basically talk about seeing auras, right? They talk about seeing energy waves off trails, as we used to call them. But maybe that is just another set of information, another slide, like you were describing, that our brain realizes we don't need that information in order to keep this bag of flesh eating and full of water.
Or what if it's
it's just a distraction. We're going to eliminate that set of information. We're going to turn off that synapse.
Yeah.
But when you add some LSD,
Yeah.
it gets fired back up again.
Or what if it's holographic by nature and your brain is a device that only can process the slices in 94B of the hologram, right? So you live in this slice, right?
Dimension.
And when you are exposed to lights from other parts of the hologram that your brain normally shuts out, you think you're seeing things, right? Like you think you are seeing a UFO, or you think you're seeing Bigfoot. Well, Bigfoot might be real. He just might be in another dimension, information stored on a different angle of the hologram that your brain, for some reason, because you're living too much in your left side and you're starting to like throw your brain balance off, or you're living too much on your right side and your brain balance is off, but for whatever reason your body is able to see stuff that
I
it's not
understand what
supposed
you're
to see.
saying. Bigfoot's a tough example, but I do know what you mean.
It's interesting. I mean, we clearly know nothing, right?
We know that we don't know anything, and that's a step in the right direction.
Yes, right? That's
Yeah.
good for Gene.
We know that we don't even know where we came from or why we're here.
We know that.
And we don't know why atoms have mass. We don't know what gravity is, really.
Yeah.
We don't really even know what's in the goddamn ocean. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're in a unique position of being these intelligent little pink monkeys that are smart enough to know we don't know anything and we can make laptops. So we're just sort of starting out.
We're just starting
We're
out.
a very young species, I think.
Well, you know, it makes you wonder when you read these books and you realize that we don't know that much. And then you listen to our podcasts about Rosicrucianism and secret societies and having this pyramid student system to get to the top of enlightenment. And it makes you wonder. It makes them more mysterious, right? Like maybe that's why in tough times the secret society thing is so interesting to people because it's like, well, do they know?
Yeah. Let's fucking hope so, because the people that are out in the open saying that they're in charge clearly don't know anything and are just fucking things up.
Yeah.
So it's a nice, it's a security blanket to think that, oh, well, the Freemasons actually know how to run the planet, or are actually calling the shots. It's not these idiots that they're saying are in charge. Thank God, you know?
Yeah, those idiots just happen to own all the media companies and can promote themselves as being in charge, but they're really not. Hopefully that's what's up. I don't think it is. I think that movie Idiocracy is slowly becoming true.
Yeah, it seems to be.
I mean, what's going to
Scary.
stop Gatorade from hiring Monsanto to make a lettuce bean that only grows from electrolytes?
Only grows from grape-flavored Gatorade.
Yeah, that they have at a premium.
And it has some sort of Terminator gene that kills all the other crops.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that could happen next week with the way things are going, you know?
Yeah. I do want to put one thing to rest, though, and I'm
What's
not
that?
a GMO expert, but I do hear it all the time about how Monsanto goes after these farmers because they're growing their plants and blah, 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 blah. But did you know, and you can check it, it's public record, federal record, there has never been a court case where Monsanto has gone after a farmer for less than like a couple thousand acres of growing something that they claim they own. So Monsanto says, look, we made this plant to be immune to this disease.
Mm-hmm.
It's our seed. We own the seed.
Yeah.
Right? They make the seed so
their business model, like you're saying, may be legal.
I know, but what I was getting at was I hear people people come up to me in person and be like, "Oh yeah, well those companies are evil. They're suing people for and it's like, yeah, but the way you make it sound like they're suing some guy for growing like 3 bays of corn.
Mm-hmm.
But in reality, everyone they're suing is illegally using their seeds, and they're growing thousands of acres.
I think the bigger, you're right. Like some of that has turned into liberal spin that's inaccurate. But the bigger problem is that the financial model that they operate under to get these farmers using their seeds is legal but unethical, in the same way that the Federal Reserve Bank is legal but unethical, although the Federal Reserve Bank is technically illegal, but we won't get into that. And that Monsanto, while they maybe aren't suing small farmers into committing suicide, they're doing a whole lot more evil things on a global basis, like creating chemicals that are destroying groundwater and destroying all other plants, and are making actually making more and more resistant and stronger pests, so that more and more toxic pesticides have to keep getting made by Monsanto.
Yeah.
It's a horrible company, and they should really be put out of business. But I guess you're right. They aren't suing small farms, but that's like saying, Genghis Khan didn't rape this one particular woman.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, we got to feed the people somehow.
We do have to feed the people somehow, but you know what? God damn it, we don't need so many people. And the answer to that isn't, some sort of evil Nazi eugenics kill-off scheme. It's an education.
Yeah. Well, it's in mindfulness, right?
It's education and giving people purposeful lives where they're not just factory drones, and they don't feel like they need to create a bunch of other lives just to have some sort of purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah,
well, that's dying.
Yeah, it is dying off.
That's a dying, But I do know what you mean. Like, when we were little kids, it was all about, like, everywhere you went, people just had kids. Like,
Oh, yeah. And before that, it was, you have to have as many kids as possible.
Yeah.
you know? And it was tied up in nationalistic ideals and religious ideals, and at least all of that is kind of falling to the wayside.
Yeah. Well, I think as people become more aware of the human mind, its capabilities. People understand how their brain works better. They understand how their bodies work better. People are becoming more aware with what they're putting in their bodies. I mean, we're waking up. Well, the one thing that really I think that's probably going to eventually be the downfall to the human species is the effects of, like you said, pesticides, everyday chemicals. I mean, I don't care what anyone says. When you burn fossil fuels to heat your house, there's a leftover consequence.
Mm-hmm.
Even if they say that they're getting, it's a 98% efficient furnace, you're still burning toxins on your fucking property.
You're also destroying the environment
where it's being mined. And the issue is, a lot of people just live in houses that are way too big. They live in a selfish world where it's all about them and their material goods.
And we all generate way more trash than we need to. Everything is overpackaged.
Way more trash than we need to. So what worries me is, that shit, and the fact that we seem to just be completely fucking blind to the fact that we live in a cosmic shooting gallery.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we really do. One of the best
yeah.
podcast episodes I felt we've done is our episode on the Chelyabinsk meteor strike in Russia.
Yeah.
And it's got the least downloads of all of our podcasts.
Yeah. It's what Randall Carlson, one of my favorite people.
Scientist, self-proclaimed scientist, by the way, a self-awakened being.
He's always talking about this.
Yeah.
About how global cataclysms were caused by meteorite strikes, and how we only see a small percentage.
And what's crazy is the evidence that people deny. How the great melt-offs and the sea levels rising and the layers of nuclear glass from all around the world.
The biblical deluges.
And the carbon levels, right? Carbon levels that were skyrocket what they are today, skyrocketed above what we're doing by burning gas, right? And it can't be denied. It's 100% science fact that 12,500 years ago, around then, something fucking hit Earth.
And it killed the dinosaurs, right?
Not
12,000.
It did kill
End of the Ice Age.
It killed a tiger the size of a horse.
Yeah.
It
woolly mammoths,
pretty much wiped out the woolly mammoths.
Saber-toothed
It wiped
tigers.
out the North American.
There used to be beavers the size of a bear.
Yeah.
I'm told, in North America back then.
And think of the mind science they had, the mystery schools back then, dude. These people that built the fucking pyramids.
Mm-hmm.
What knowledge did they have?
The Minoans that were in North America mining copper.
One asteroid wiped it all out.
Yeah.
And here we are today, these super cool humans. We make a kick-ass podcast on a meteor strike. I thought for sure people were going to be interested. Nope. Nope, not at all. Female Viagra boners has like the most downloads of all the most recent. People are more interested about female Viagra boners than meteor strikes.
Well, whatever brings them to the water, I guess.
Yeah, and I guess the water is the sweet nunny.
The what?
Nunny, nunny, nunny. Nunny, nunny. I don't know. I think that there is some secret to the mind that the ancients knew, whether it was like between meditative practices, like combining meditation, hallucinogens, and sound cymatics. They were able to like heal the human body or levitate stones or who knows, right? Exist without eating. Maybe that's how they built those fucking pyramids. It's because it was 12 guys who were wicked strong and who knew how to control their bodies. They didn't even need to eat. They could lift up any weight they want.
Maybe they were actually able to live to be 1,000 years old, like they say in some ancient texts.
What if that was the secret? That's what they're keeping secret. Those are the hieroglyphs that once covered the pyramids that they destroyed. Was that the pyramids were built by everyday people with their own hands.
Maybe we've all just had it programmed out of us. It's common senses that people are supposed to have, and it's been programmed out of us.
Well, we're definitely programmed. Like I said, man, you just need to put on the idiot box, and you can see how they want you to, where they want you to be vibrating. You can tell what like what stress levels they want you at. Everything's designed. And people are like, oh, you guys are conspiracy guys. Those shows are on TV because that's what the people want.
No, people don't realize
I'm
how they're
sorry.
being manipulated. I first started to kind of wake up to it in a graphic design course where we were assigned a book called something, I think it was called Cute, Quaint, Hungry, and Romantic.
Yeah.
And it was all about how aesthetics are manipulated by advertising agencies to manipulate your psyche. And they relate it to everyday common objects around us. Like, you never think about, why do little girls pick up baby dolls and play with them?
Yeah.
Right? And what is it about a certain doll that makes it more pick-upable, for lack of a better term, than other ones? And what it ends up being is subtle aesthetic shifts. The eyes are too big, the hands are too small, which makes it seem kind of crippled and needy. It needs to be picked up and hugged, right?
Yeah.
It's chubby and soft. And the leaner baby dolls of the 40s are not as desirable as the puffier, fatter ones that they started to make. And so that's just one basic idea of how and they go into color theory, right? And your brain reacts differently to bright red and bright yellow than it does to like a cool blue and a purple, which is why if you look at every fast food restaurant logo, there's always some combination of orange and red, or red and yellow, or like a, any of the three. Burger King, McDonald's, Wendy's, all red and white, red and yellow, yellow and red and orange, orange and white, and that's because those colors excite a part of your brain that make you hungry, that make you excited and make you want to do things. Whereas a high-end restaurant will have cooler colors, like more purples and lilacs and pinks and stuff, because they want you to be relaxed and they want you to hang out and they want you to spend time and have a salad and an appetizer and an extra bottle of wine and have dessert. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So your brain is manipulated by simple things like sound and color, and I would imagine electronic frequency.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense. Certain smells.
Mm-hmm.
They trick your brain. They connect those neural paths of what your brain remembers.
Right.
Your brain smells that French fry, and it's like, yeah, the last 40 times I've had those French fries, they were pretty fucking good.
Which also triggers emotions, too. When you're talking about people's memories, it's tied to emotions.
Yep, and then emotions...
You can certainly manipulate them around those things.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely an ether, right? That of information flying around that affects the outcome of everything you do. Well, I don't know, man. We're approaching on 60 minutes. I thought that'd be a good conversation about brain science, and how it ties into these...
secret societies?
Yeah, with their secret knowledge and,
People should join our secret society that's an unsecret society.
Yeah, Dead Peasant Radio. Subscribe to our YouTube. Subscribe to our Twitter.
Dead Peasant Revival. Good for your survival.
Yeah, I mean...
Be a church of one, though. Don't come practice with us, because there's no practice.
There's no practice.
There's no rituals.
Yep.
There's no book to buy.
Imagine a world with no churches, no groups, no borders, no countries, just individual people getting along, being creative.
We have no answers. We can only share our questions with you.
Yep. All right, man. Well, until next time. Keep it wet.
Govern ourselves.
Dead Peasant Radio.
We must have faith in each other. Govern ourselves. Faith in our ability to govern ourselves.
Dead Peasant Radio.
It's the most important task we face.
You were listening to Dead Peasant Radio.
Sometimes anger, public opinion.
What can we do? Face the truth.